This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Little sports, and last night we had the Heat, obviously defeating losing to the Thunder, actually 116-115, as Tyler Hero ended up missing that 3-point shot, the game winner, and Miami ended up losing. But it was, I guess, what you call a memorable night in other ways, because the Jimmy Butler and the whole CP3 thing that went on. And if you watch the game yesterday, look, the game didn't mean much. You know, a lot of the starters rested in the second half and all that stuff, and it kind of became a game where some of the backups, got some playing time, and I'm sure they were happy to have that. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the Indiana game on Friday. I don't think that game's going to mean anything, because both teams are locked in to that their spots. And so you're going to see Indiana, and it's going to be a best of 7. So there's no reason to risk, injury in the last game and put anybody out there at risk. So I don't imagine that that's going to be a game where maybe we were looking forward to it, but now it just seems like a game that we just want to get through. Now at this point, it's bad for Indiana, because Indiana's the one that wants to beat Miami before the playoffs start, but Miami has controlled that series. So that'll be interesting. But yesterday in that game, CP3, and CP3 is known as a royal pain in the ass wherever he's been. He's one of those guys that, he's looked as a leader and all that, but he's a feisty ass dude. And yesterday, he got into it with Duncan Robinson, which I got to tell you something. That's kind of weird, because Duncan Robinson doesn't look like the kind of kid that really pisses anybody off. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of to himself. He's a quiet, unassuming kid. He just shoots a lot of threes, and he's really good at it, man. What was he, like 4 or 5 or something from 3-point range in the first half, or 5 3-pointers in the first half? I forgot what it was, but he was on that sick roll of his. And I saw that exchange, and then he throws the ball at Duncan. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It's like, that's Duncan Robinson, dude. If it was Jimmy Butler, he can instigate. Okay, I get it. It's Patrick Beverly. Okay, I get it. There are certain guys around the league that could do things to kind of, but Duncan Robinson? Really? And then to see Jimmy come back on the next play and on that drive and put his shoulder right into CP3 and put him on his butt, I loved every second of it. Okay? That reminded me of old basketball. The basketball I grew up with in the 80s and the 90s. That's what happened in the 80s and the 90s. If you did something like that, Rick Mahorn was waiting for you in the paint to take care of business. Okay? Charles Oakley was waiting for you in the paint to take care of business. You know what I mean? And Robert Parrish was waiting for you in the paint to take care of business. It didn't matter. It was just one of those things. And Jimmy, that was total old school. And I loved every second of it, because, again, Duncan's not that guy. And it's really weird that you would get that bent out of shape with that young man. And yet, sure enough, that's what ended up happening. And Jimmy puts a shoulder in him, puts him on his ass. And look, I get that he got the foul and the turnover and all that stuff. And Jimmy was happy with that turnover. After the game, Jimmy Butler was asked about that play, and here's what his reaction was.
I'm not going to throw the ball at my teammate like that. I'll get a turnover, get an offensive foul, but we don't do that here. So you mess with one of my guys, especially one of my shooters, then you got to deal with me and everybody else.
Yeah, And I love that. And there's not a lot of those guys on this team right now because they're so young in the league that they don't really, they haven't developed that kind of confidence or that kind of edge or something along those lines. Because I think Tyler Hero has a little, dog in him, but he hasn't developed that yet. I think Duncan's a nice kid. I don't know if he's ever going to be that kind of guy. Bam, too. Bam's a hell of a player, but again, not the kind of guy that probably is going to get, down and dirty. But Jimmy Butler is one of those guys that he's old school, and he's going to stand up for his teammates, and he's going to do the right thing. And if you have to take a penalty or if you have to get ejected to send your message, the Panthers have pissed me off over the years because their players take a beating and they do not deliver it. And I would get pissed all the time because Vinny Trocheck would get pounded on. And Vinny was the only guy that had fire on that. That's the amazing part about talent. He traded the guy that had more fire than everybody else, more than Huberdeau, more than Barkov, more than even Ekblad on defense. That's the guy that you shouldn't have traded. Okay? What you should have done is gotten a couple of, tough guys to police the team. And so when somebody messes with Vinny, they're out there to check him. Maybe you should have hired Jimmy Butler. Put some skates on Jimmy Butler, and maybe the Panthers can get their enforcer. You know what I'm saying? But Jimmy had to play the enforcer last night. And the other thing that you see is the bond that's happening with the team. You know what I mean? And that's again, that's a tribute to Jimmy Butler. Okay? Jimmy Butler's talent is not superstar. It's not even high-end all-star. He's an all-star, but it's not even like an elite player. But he has handled everything at an elite level. The way he distributes the ball, the way he plays defense, the way he inspires his teammates, the way he keeps them focused and working hard, the way he's supportive of all these young guys. He's been a superstar in that sense. Okay? He can't carry a team offensively. That's not his game. And what I love about what Jimmy's done is he knows he's not that player, and he's not trying to be that player, but he's being the best he can be. And that's in every other facet of the game. He doesn't have to carry your franchise with points, but he's carrying it with character. He's carrying it with toughness. He's carrying it with work ethic, and he's spreading that love and that work ethic that he brings to the table. That it's all part of Heat culture as it is, but it also sets an example for all these other young guys that are going to grow up in this system. And Tyler Hero yesterday, it sucked that he missed the three-point shot at the end there. He was 3 of 6 from three-point range and had 6 rebounds. Jimmy Butler, you can tell, is a big fan of Tyler Hero.
Tyler, I mean, his finishing, knowing when to make late decisions, knowing when to shoot the pull-up floater, knowing when to hit the baseline, the pocket pass. It's not surprising to me, though, because he's always studying the film. He's always watching it before the game, after the game. And the kid just wants to be great. He wants to help bring a championship to Miami, and I think we're going to do that.
All right, so there you go. That's Jimmy. And, again, big fan. You can tell. And this stuff is priceless for Hero and for Robinson and even for Bam. Even though Bam was already on the way of development, and the third year, obviously, you saw him, catapult himself into the All-Star because he's really their best player, actually. Athletically, everything, Bam is your best player right now, overall. Now, Jimmy's probably the most important because of all the other things that I just talked about. And Tyler's one of those guys that he has worked with. And look, I love Tyler's got to improve on defense. He's got to build his body up a little bit, but he's a kid. He's a year removed from Kentucky. I mean, all these youngsters that come out of the NBA, they're playing with grown-ass men that have 4 mortgages, a wife, 8 kids, 4 kids, 3 girlfriends, 5 houses. They got a lot of expenses, all kinds. The single guys, the married guys, these guys got them. You're playing against junkyard dogs every day. So when a young kid like this comes out of college, he's got to grow into playing against men, because men are playing for money and they're hungry and that's a different breed. And Hero's got to get to that point. Duncan's got to get to that point. Kendrick Nunn. All these guys have to kind of develop their bodies, develop their minds, and so they could get to that level where all these other guys are at. And having a guy like Butler in place is, I got to tell you, it really is priceless, as they say in that commercial. So good stuff last night. I know it was a loss. I don't care about the damn loss. I mean, to me, it just that meant nothing to me. More about the CP3 thing with Robinson, I think, is a lot better of a storyline, and everything else that came out of that, I like it that way. Both teams, by the way, Pacers and Heat, are at 44 and 28. They're both locked into their spots. They're going to meet each other. It'll be a best of 7 series. So I doubt that tomorrow's game is going to mean absolutely anything whatsoever. That's the sad part, man.